family. Welcome to Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist.
And a doctor.
I am your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And the other co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
So before we jump into our amazing guest, I just want to do a quick check-in, Candy. So what's new in your world?
Well, the family was abuzz. I actually got one of those rare 4-person FaceTime calls because Boogie just walked in Fashion Week for a brand called Who Declares War. Something has to do with war. And it's exciting and all of that stuff.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
I saw the pictures. I mean,
yeah,
he's like
yeah.
slaying it.
Yeah, so hopefully he gets a couple more shows and we have more good pictures.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome. And that's his second time doing Fashion Week, right?
No, third time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I expect to see him on a cover of a magazine coming up here soon.
Your lips to God's ears. He needs money for grad school.
Right.
Mama's not paying for that.
Okay, so let's talk about our guest for a second.
Well, Dr. Yameika Head, first of all, she is Meharry Maid. She went to Meharry 10 years after I did. She's a pediatrician. She's a board-certified pediatrician, and she's a child abuse pediatrician, and she's a professor of pediatrics in Georgia. She is a mom and a wife. She's an advocate and a friend and a sister. And we are thrilled to have Dr. Yameika Head on the podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us, Yameika. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today.
Honored to be here with you ladies.
That's a heck of a resume.
Yeah. Lots of hard work. So, we had Yameika on before, and the recording, we couldn't salvage it for some reason. And I contacted her and she said, I've actually started talking about something else. And I want to share that. And so, Yameika, I'm just going to give you the mic for now. And we can chit chat about this very important topic.
Okay. So, I'm glad we're doing this on this podcast because we're talking about sisters of a certain age. And when you become a certain age, you do go back over your life and you think about why you went through things. You think about the lessons you learned from the things that you went through. And there was something in my history that I have never told anybody. And so this year, every year I usually do a theme of what I want to do. And this year is my theme of letting people know. So it's letting people know about all the things I'm doing, like the businesses that I'm trying to do, but also letting people know about certain things that's happened to me. The one thing that I have never really talked about or told people is that I was a victim of intimate partner violence when I was a resident. So part of more so residency, and nobody knew about it. Like nobody. So even my close friends who were great support systems, but not in this area, don't know to this day about the things that happened to me. So they thought my husband was a cheater. He was, but the cheating led to beating. And so it's been plenty of times that I've come to work sore or quiet. And Sophia, you know me, I'm talky, happy.
Yeah.
And there were days that I was quiet, but what I realized when I think back, like nobody ever asked me at one time, like what was going on with me. They just was like, yeah, if I had attitude. I don't know what they thought, but I wonder, like going back, if someone had ever asked me, would I have told them what was going on? So my talking for this year is I am letting people know about what happened. I did the first of letting people know is I wrote like a blog for a conference. It was a women in medicine conference, and they wanted, they wanted an inspirational story, but they also wanted like research to go with it. But sad thing was, and it was good that I could write it in my blog, is that I couldn't find any papers or anything that talk about physicians that have, I don't know how they felt about intimate part or were involved in intimate part. Like there is nothing about
Right.
it. And because of that, that is the reason why I'm like, I need to talk about this because I know it's not just me.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
At all. But the thing is, as physicians, like we don't talk about us because we're known
No.
as superheroes, like
High achievers.
high achievers.
And I'm sure there are lots of physicians, female physicians, being physically and emotionally abused, but then admitting it, you feel like a failure and you feel like people are going to say, how come she didn't know? Or, you're not dependent on him for income. Why are you staying? And there's a lot of judgment. So you keep it quiet. So what made you, after all these years, share your story?
So I'm on this journey of helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this being where I am now, I think it would help people to know that even when you do all the things, there is also some things that be in the background that we don't talk about. And the thing about being a physician is, we don't talk about emotions and things that happen to us. So if we have a bad day, we have to shut that off because we have to see
Suck it up. Yeah.
patients. I got scared. It was a couple of weeks ago where I learned something bad had happened to a resident of mine. Like she almost died.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to shut that off and just go see patients and be all happy and be in Dr. Head. And I think that is kind of scary that we have this thing, like we're actually trained to do that. And
Yeah.
I also think because of what I went through, it made mine is extra cut off, I guess, because I've
Mm-hmm.
had to put on this mask for like years,
Mm-hmm.
not letting people know. So it because I'm in therapy
Mm-hmm.
now.
Shout out to therapy,
Hey,
Yameika.
we
Let
love
me tell you
therapists.
something. Worth
Who?
every penny.
Who? Who? She
Love
can not.
therapists.
My therapist is the bomb. So I have
Mm-hmm.
a therapist who gets me. She is married to a physician, so she understands the physician life and
Mm-hmm.
understands me as a black woman, and she gets me. She cusses
Mm-hmm.
at me. She knows how to get me together, and I
Mm-hmm.
just love her. And I wish I had known how great therapists were. I would have did this long time ago. Shout
Right.
out to you, Judy, and all the work that you do. Like y'all are worth every. I would give her my whole check. And I love my money, so
Mm-hmm.
I would give her that because she is so worth it. Like whatever she
Yeah.
want to
Right.
charge me, I'll pay it because
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
it is so worth it.
Yeah. So, Yamika, take me back to the first time it happened and the thoughts that ran through your head.
Can I just ask a question first?
Mm-hmm.
Yamika, how old were you when this was happening? Because I think that has a lot to do with the quiet, like with how quiet you were and the fact that you didn't discuss.
So the first time it happened was at Meharry. We actually, so it might have been late 20s.
Late
Mm-hmm.
20s. Okay.
late 20s maybe. But we were going to see. We are going to my alma mater. To a basketball game. It was like homecoming, and so I was meeting up with my college roommate, some friends of ours. Like we were coming down, and so me and him drove down. But we got in an argument about some other girl. It's always a girl. Some other girl who's flirting with or talking to something.
Mm-hmm.
So we had actually made it to the apartment complex where my friends were, and because we were arguing, and I'm not um, one that just hushes. Like I'm gonna go back and forth with you or
Mm-hmm.
whatever and say my piece. And um, we were unpacking, and I remember there was some fellas that were outside hanging by the car, and I said something um, really, really, you know, probably hurt his feelings or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the first time he hauled off and hit me in front of these guys. And so the
Damn.
guys were like, ho, 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 ho. And I'm, tussling back because I'm like, what is this? And so I'm fighting. I had scratched him in his face. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, I'm done. I was done. Even though I rode with him, I'm like, I'll find me a way back to Nashville. You don't have to worry. And so he's like, no, no, no. He's apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm upset. And he's like, we got this weekend. I'm sorry. The whole I'm sorry
Yeah. Yeah.
I go. And so when we get there, I'm again, I guess that facade. I get there with my friends. We're all happy. They didn't know what had happened outside,
Wow.
like
Right.
5 minutes outside of there. And then um, the guys came and knocked on the door and
The
were
guys that saw
checking on
you.
me. Yeah, because and they were like, well, they were coming to check on me, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, no, we're fine, it's fine, And my roommate's like, what's going on? I was like, oh, he fell in the bushes, and I guess the guys were trying to make sure he was okay because
Mm-hmm.
Because he had the scratches.
yeah. So weekend went well, and that was the first time, but it was until we couples matched for residency, and we got went to his hometown. So I'm away from all family. I don't know anybody but his family, and we were at two different hospitals and went the opposite way. So we lived together, but we weren't together because it's residency. So
Mm-hmm.
he
Yeah.
was on call, I was on call. So we really didn't see each other much.
Were you married?
Yeah. So we got married in between our third and fourth year of medical school.
Okay.
Was at the
So,
time.
so we have another educated physician who is a perpetrator of this violence.
Yes.
Okay. Just
Okay.
want to be clear with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So the thing about intimate partner violence, like it does not matter.
Mm-mm.
Not race, not
What?
socioeconomic status, not religion. Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's everywhere to all people, and it
Yes.
doesn't. Um, you can see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what were your thoughts and feelings? I mean, I know you put on this facade for your friends, but internally, what were you thinking and feeling?
So in turn, I'm like, I know this joker just did not like hit me in public because it was other people that saw what happened. So one thing about me is like I do not want to be embarrassed. Like that is a thing for me, and I just like I can't let them know because my friends like we would have jumped him again together because my
Right.
friends were
Right.
trying to die. So I'm just like I'm just gonna put this to the side.
Right.
This was like I would not have known he would ever do something like this. I'm just
It
thinking,
was just a one-time thing.
Right.
You were
Right. Right.
tired,
I
riled
was talking
up.
junk. We done
You
drove all these
pushed his
hours.
buttons. So you took
Yes,
some of the blame. Yeah.
yes, all of that. So it wasn't until like later, that like things happened to be more.
Mm-hmm.
When you say later, are we talking days, weeks, months before it happened again?
So it was, I would say about a year,
A
um,
year.
Mm-hmm.
that things happened again. And of course, it was the female comes around, and I
Mm-hmm.
find out about it, and um, we fight every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can say I was not one that just, when we got into it, I wasn't just cowering in the corner
Mm-hmm.
letting
Right.
them, like, it was
Back and
fighting
forth.
Yeah.
back
Mm-hmm.
and forth, like fighting. So
Mm-hmm.
I was talking, I was scratching, the same thing. It wasn't like that. But the thing is, after, because I tried to leave like plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I am the typical Sagittarius. I will cut you off. So
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Mm-hmm.
leave every time, and
I'm a Leo and I do that too. So.
yeah, it's like it. I'm done. Like I am gone. Like you said, I do not have to be here. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I would, he would like
Sweet talk.
sweet talk, cry. He's even tried to kill himself. And as being the kind-hearted physicians, we're trying to help all the time. We just have that in us, and I got sucked back into it because I'm like,
Right.
I don't want this man to die. I just want to leave, but I don't want him to die. And he's like, if you leave me, he tried to cut his wrist. He ain't really do it, but he act like he's gonna cut his wrist.
Yeah.
Tried to overdose on Allegra. I don't think people can imagine
Allegra. I mean, he's
Allegra.
a physician. He knows how to kill himself better than that. Come on.
Exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm all scared. Oh my god, he just
Uh-huh.
knocking Allegras and stuff out.
Right.
Just he ran out one time in front of in the streets running,
Mm-hmm.
when cars were coming. But I'm hollering, and I don't want him to kill himself. It's just like I'm just trying to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
lots of times I've tried to leave. Yeah.
So there was a lot of emotional manipulation as well.
Yes.
But I want to talk about like the cycle of violence, right? And for those that don't know about the cycle, it goes something like this, where everything is blissful and lovely. And things start to escalate, but they don't get to any sort of crazy escalation in that moment. But they do start to kind of ramp up to that moment of violence, which is often then followed by apologies, sweet talking, I'll do whatever you need, don't leave me, I can't do it without you, and you are feeling like I want to believe him. I
Right.
want to believe this person, or I want to believe her, because we know that females can do this themselves. They can be the perpetrators. And so you have this apology and you want to believe so badly that you say, okay, I'm going to stay. And this cycle continues and continues and continues until you reach a breaking point where you say, I need to stop this cycle.
Right.
And I'm going to share that though I was not a victim of that physical violence, the emotional, the psychological, absolutely. And it was the same cycle.
Mhm.
So be mindful for those listening that it does not have to be physical for
Right.
it to be abusive.
Right.
And the cycle is the same.
Right. Right. Yes. And the thing is, it wasn't like it was good until a female came around. So I had
Mm-hmm.
no problems. We were fine until another lady comes in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it's like, come on. And then it's the confrontation. Um, One time it was a lady who came to my house. I was post call, and he's out of town. He went to a conference or something, and so post call. So I'm asleep because I got to go. Go in that night, and I get a knock on the door, and it's like nobody should. Like, we don't know people like that. That they should be like knocking on our
Mm-hmm.
door
Mm-hmm.
during the day. And so a lady, I open the door, and the lady is like um, looking at me crazy, like, where is he? And I'm like, he's at a conference. Like, what may I help you? And she's like, well,
Right, right.
I'm his girlfriend. And I'm like, "You can't be his girlfriend because I'm his wife." And she just broke down crying
Mm-hmm.
right then because she didn't know about me. And she's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And I'm like, yes. And so I went and got our wedding picture and showed
Yeah,
her.
I remember you telling me about
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Mm,
And she, that was the only reason because when she would come over to our house, because he would bring her to our house, he would hide all those pictures. So she's like,
right.
I've never seen that before. And so that is one of the times where a female has came to our house. Another time was another female that came to our house, and this time we got into it because she showed up and he was there, and we got into it,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, fussing about it, fighting about it, and got to fighting. He was beating all this kind of stuff, and the neighbor had called the police on
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
what happened, and police came. And because he had scratches on him, and I was so upset that I looked like, I was just like over it and I had no emotions and I was just hot. Because he had marks on him, they arrested me.
mm,
And because, oh no, because during that time, I had picked up the phone and called 911, but he took it from me. So
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure out if it was the neighbor that called, because I
right.
think she called at the same time, and I had, how you do the drop 911
Mm-hmm.
call, and so yeah, so they arrested me, and even the neighbor was like, no, 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 because it was like a little older lady, but
Mm-hmm.
I was at that time trying to be all like gangster and
Mm-hmm.
had the handcuffs off. And then when I got in the back of that police car, like I broke down crying. And it was a man and a lady, and they were looking like, what's going on? And I'm like, I called y'all or tried to call y'all. I said, because it started with him
Right.
and the man and the lady. And I know I'm spiritual, so I know that God must have touched them because
Mm-hmm.
they did not take me to jail. I can't do jail. I couldn't do jail,
Mm-hmm.
and they just actually dropped me off at a hotel that was up the street. And
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I spent
wow.
the night there
Wow.
and snuck and got my car and I went to work that
I
And
day.
then you
can't
went
even
to work.
imagine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't imagine. What were you thinking about in terms of your medical license and ability to practice medicine and losing your livelihood if you had this charge? Did it cross your mind?
Wasn't thinking.
It, it did, but I just felt
Mm-hmm.
that they would forgive me because I probably would
Mm-hmm.
have told what happened
Right.
and why I had that charge, which I
You
did.
trust the justice system?
I was young then. Like now, I'm going to jail. It's over now. But then I was just like, I just would have to tell them. That was my thing. I just would have to tell, and I
Mm-hmm.
was never ever ever going to tell anybody about that.
Mm-hmm.
And
So at
so
this time, nobody knew. Nobody
nobody,
knew.
no, no,
Okay.
nobody knew. And the thing is, like, I had good friends. Like I have
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
best best friends husband. So even when I moved out, when I finally was like, and I'll tell you the story about what was my breaking point, where I'm like, oh, he can die now if he was
Mm-hmm.
going to. But like they were the ones, like them, my friends and their husbands were the ones that helped me to move out of my place. But
Mm-hmm.
Right.
they thought is because too
He's a
much cheating
cheater.
back
He's a
then.
cheating.
It was a cheating thing. So they didn't know. So they were just like, well, he's a piece of crap. Da, 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 da. So they were upset, but they helped me to actually move into another apartment. So I had all the support. I knew if I told, um, they would be there for me. I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't want, as us black women, I don't want you to pity me. I
Right.
don't want
Right.
you to judge me,
Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
feel ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
and just the shame that it's hard to explain to somebody why you stayed in that when you know that, you know what I'm saying? Like I
But
knew, but
one
it
of the things that I have learned, it's been drilled into me, that one of the hardest, I guess the worst questions to ask a survivor is, why didn't you leave? Why just
Oh
pick up
my
and go?
gosh, yeah. Hmm.
Right? But it's so much more complex than just packing a bag and walking out.
right.
And I think when you ask that question, you immediately put off that person that you're trying to support, because they like recognize, like, you don't get it. You'll never get it.
No. Mm-mm.
So I understand. It's hopefully we're able to get out at a time that's right for us. Like you had your last straw, I had my last straw.
Mm-hmm.
Um and we can only do it on our timeline, because again, for those listening, it's not simply, okay, I'm going to leave. I know this is bad, so I'm going to go. It's a lot more involved than that. Psychologically, financially, like
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very complex.
Right, and especially when you're in a time like mine, like nobody was knowing, like his family didn't know, um, my
Hmm.
friends didn't know, so to try to do it covertly, um,
Right.
to try to get away and to try to think of like how can I get my help, move all that without letting people know. Because
Hmm.
at this point, like my family didn't know. When I was moving, I remember when I decided to move, my mom came to help me to pack. And she was actually trying to get me to get back with him.
Right.
Hmm.
But I couldn't tell her, like, I'm not, I don't care what he do. I am not getting
Hmm.
back with him. And it was hard to get, it was just a hard time because I
Right.
didn't tell her this is why.
Right.
Because she just thought that, he cheated and he said he's gonna do that. Work. You should work
Right.
on your marriage,
Right.
kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And it was like, no, it's a little bit more to that, but I couldn't tell her. It
Hmm.
wasn't until after she had left and I was safe in my new home that I was like, okay, mom, this is why I was not
Right.
going back. And she was devastated
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she was trying to work to get us back. And I was just like,
Right.
mm-mm. So she just thought I was being a bitch
Hmm.
Hmm.
about it. And I'm like, no, it was a little bit more to that.
But there's also this the stigma of it, right? The shame, like you are ashamed that this is happening to you, so you don't want to tell people. You don't want to feel that pity from others. There's also this like, I don't know, this idea that I'm a victim. Nobody wants to be a victim of anything. So again, there are a lot of reasons why we keep these things to ourselves. Um, and honestly, there's a part of it where we're actually trying to protect the other person. It's
Right,
like, I don't want people to think badly of him,
right.
right? And you still love this person even though they're perpetrating.
Hmm.
Um, so again, very, very complex issues here that we're dealing with.
Very.
So, what was that final straw for you?
So my final straw was okay. So I found out I was pregnant. And at that time, it was other co-residents that were pregnant. We were all pregnant at the same time. So even though I'm like, I really don't want to have a baby for him, but all
Mm-hmm.
the my coworkers were all excited about it.
Hmm.
And so it was early on, and I had came home from I think I had clinic, and I came home and I was spotting, and
Mm.
so being in medical, I kind of knew what this was going to be. So went to the bathroom. You see the clots and all that.
Yeah.
When all this was happening, he was in the other bathroom getting ready for work. So he was like, I was like, I think miscarrying. And he was like, well, call your doctor and see, what they say. So I called my doctor. My doctor's like, that's what it sounds like. Um, right now, just, call me if it gets worse. But natural course is that, your baby's going to pass. Um,
How far along were you?
I was early. So I might have been 6, 7 weeks. Like I remember,
Okay.
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 Brand new.
Hmm.
Hmm.
yeah, went to we found out together. I had my first appointment and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And so just was waiting. But during that time, so I told him, I was like, she's like, we're just gonna, it just has to pass. And I was like, and right now I'm fine. And then next thing I know, I hear the door close and like the keys and him out the door. Um, so I'm in shock because I'm like, he left me
Hmm.
miscarrying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it was fine in the beginning, and then of course, when you're passing, the cramps get worse. And
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna die when that happened. But the thing is, like, I wasn't gonna call my friends to help me um, because I didn't want to explain where he was. So
Hmm.
I just stayed there and passed that baby by myself. And
Oh,
when that happened, that's when I was like, I have got to go. I it's past me trying to
right.
work on this. Was it just showed me you don't give a damn about me, that you
Yeah.
want
Right.
me
Right.
passing your child by myself. And I felt at that time like so um, just alone because I
Hmm.
had friends that I could call, but um, just the embarrassment that I
Yeah.
was going through that, and you wasn't there, so I didn't.
Right.
So that was that, and so that
Well,
was my.
I'm hearing you say this or share this story is heartbreaking, that you had to endure that on your own, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. Um, yeah. So I just wanted to say, I mean, any miscarriage is heartbreaking and
Right.
difficult, and then under those particular circumstances, just making it so much more
Yeah.
difficult because you don't have someone, you didn't have a partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yamika, how long did it take you after that happened to make the next steps?
I think like right after I had a doctor's appointment to make sure everything was okay and that I was
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
fine. After that, I was plotting. So I was
Mm-hmm.
getting my stuff together. Um, I actually went to the apartment complex and told the people there my situation, that I was trying to leave, and that could they help me, because I knew financially, even though I was a resident, we don't have a lot of money. I knew I
Right.
couldn't move somewhere far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was asking if they could get me like another apartment in, it's a whole bunch of like in the back where he wouldn't
Right.
know where I was going. And actually, like my friends, like when we were moving, like we didn't know if he was watching. We would circle the block like we were going somewhere, like outside of and just come right back into.
Uh-huh.
So plotting, getting utilities together, and just finding the time when he would be gone that I would just move and get my stuff out. And so
Did
it was.
you was he aware that you were leaving, or did you do this secretly?
No, I told him I was leaving. Like I told
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
him this was it. He did the whole
Yeah.
crying, killing myself kind of stuff. So
Um,
um, I just waited until he went to work and
Right. Um, and Yamika, you know this. You probably didn't know it at the time, but when women leave is when they're at the highest risk of
Yeah,
homicide.
I was just about to say that. It's the most
Um,
dangerous time.
so I'm glad you had the support, and I'm glad it didn't escalate. But for many women, they don't have that, and many women lose their lives when when they're leaving. So it's a very sobering fact. But for our listeners, I don't want you to hear Yamika's story and say, "Oh, I'm going to get my friends together." You need to be very strategic, and
Hmm.
if you cannot like afford a therapist or get help, lots of domestic violence shelters and support groups will help you in your next steps. And frequently, women need to move when the man is at work and he thinks everything's okay and he just comes back to an empty apartment, empty house.
Hmm.
and I think that is the thing. When I look back, one of my regrets is not letting people know about everything.
Mm.
Um, and that's just, and I think being just black, a black woman, we just move different. The way we are a little bit different. But one of my regrets is not letting my friends know because
Mm-hmm.
I would have had a lot of help. If it had went bad, they would have
Mm-hmm.
been like they would have known
They would have been
Mm-hmm.
prepared.
to prepare to be on the lookout for me. I think they would be there with me more
Mm-hmm.
so. And so that was one of my regrets. And I'm glad, Sophia, that you did bring that up because yes, I was fortunate
Yeah.
that it didn't go that way. Um,
Right.
but also um, having that support. Like I had support, and I just not using that support. Like that is like my biggest regret. And
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I know whenever I see my friends again, I am going to tell them about
Mm-hmm.
everything because I know they would be in shock about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when our kids are young and they're in elementary, middle, high school, and we talk to them about sexual health education and things of that nature, I've seen a shift where schools are now talking a little bit more about IPV, interpersonal violence, and I think it is so good that we are making our young people, our adolescents aware because the number of instances of violence, even between a 16 and a 17-year old, are staggering. Like it starts young.
Mm-hmm.
So I think by providing this early education will help them at least to recognize, like, oh, this could be a red flag, or this is a problem for me, or I don't like that, so they can try to get help earlier. So that, coupled with you here today sharing your story as a woman of a certain age, um, I is so very important, um, that we hear this, and that we hear it from an early age, that we start talking to our kids so they know that this behavior is unacceptable
Yeah.
and that they have support, period.
Yes, and trusting yourself. That first time then things happen, I it was weird because I in any other circumstance I'd be deuces and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
trusting that no, like we can't work on that.
Mm-hmm.
That if it happens one time, it's going to happen more. Um, so going if it gets to the point that it happens that first time, like leave then. As
Right.
Hmm.
good looking, suave,
Hmm.
puts it on you, whatever you got that makes you think you need to stay or whatever.
Right.
Like if it gets to that point, like leave then. Um,
Yeah.
like it's going to happen again. Even though, like
Now,
I said, in my situation, it was later, but it's gone to.
how did that experience affect future relationships?
Um,
Did it?
it really it made me run from marriage again.
Mm.
Like it took forever for me to want to get married. So I had booze and things and had lots of
Mm-hmm.
fun having
Mm-hmm.
most everything. Um, and I don't think it just like when it came to commitments, like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
believe in marriage for a
Mm-hmm.
long time because
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that marriage was sacred. It's, you're gonna be with that person for forever. They're there to protect you. And my first marriage, it wasn't like that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
plenty. I had lots of fiancés. It was like say that,
Mm-hmm.
but it was. I was not getting married
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, no, might switch up. So I think that was the thing. So poor fellas after who wanted to marry Yameika. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
just.
I'm curious,
Mhm.
did you ever share this with those other people?
I shared it with one
Hmm.
of my fiancés because he was
Mm-hmm.
actually the one that told my dad about it,
Mm-hmm.
and he understood um, about I had a commitment issue. He
Yeah,
tried to
Mm-hmm.
hang
yeah.
in there, but of course I'm like, not gonna happen. So one did know it took forever for my current husband. Like he knew I went through a IPP thing, but he didn't know how um, severe it was,
Mm-hmm.
and like the messed up stuff that happened to me, and how um, because of that, I have a problem expressing when things happen to me. So I go into shutdown. I don't talk. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not present. So we had to do
Mm-hmm.
some counseling together
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because I just the mask comes on, and you never know
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's going on with me, and it could be crazy at work, and I just shut
Right. I
down.
mean, listen, you can't go through something like that and not emerged unscathed.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, you now have this baggage that you're carrying. Hopefully you're able to work through it, but it can be a challenge. When I met my husband, he had to remind me, I'm not him. I'm not him
I'm not
because
the other dude.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
the other guy because I had such a hard time trusting him, and he had to, like, I'll prove it to you, I'm not him. And so I think that's another lesson. It's like for our listeners is to know that they are going to have some residual
oh yeah,
Yeah.
behaviors, feelings, thoughts about what happened and why it happened, and maybe there's some self blame. And again, seek out a therapist to help you process that. As much as your girlfriends can be present for you and your family can be present for you, you really need an objective ear to help you truly process those things. So, again, um, for your mental health, for your well being.
yes. Because you've done it when you're in it. You've done it for so long that you don't know that it's wrong, that it's unhealthy
Mm-hmm.
behavior. You're just like,
Right.
this is me. You got to take me
Mm-hmm.
and all this, and as your therapist, like, girl, that ain't healthy. And you're like, what?
Right.
Yeah. It's taken me so far. That's how I've survived. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
me. You don't have to deal with this.
those those self-preservation skills don't necessarily serve you out in the world after, right?
Yeah.
They had a purpose. They had a purpose and they kept you as safe as you could possibly be in that moment, but they don't necessarily translate
Yeah.
when you get
Now,
out.
Yameika, what would you tell, say, a listener who is our age now, who they've been in it for 20 years and they think it's a way of life?
Mm.
What would you say?
So it is better on the other side.
Mm.
Like, if you are able to get out, it is a whole lot better on
Mm-hmm.
the other side. If you think because you've been beat down so much that you will never find anybody that's going to love you, you will find many people who would be so happy to have you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I being in it is like is not the that is not your way of life. It is not a
Mm-hmm.
way of life. There, the world, even though it's crazy as it is so much better. There are so many different people out there that are so much better. Even being by yourself, I was by myself for the longest, and like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
had my little booze and stuff, but I was
Mm-hmm.
so happy just being by myself and
Right.
cherishing and learning about myself and growing and knowing that I am worth worth it. That I
Mm-hmm.
am
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. That yes, this this is all the fabulousness. Learning that
Right.
you
Right.
Right.
need that. But it took some time to learn that. It took some therapy to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to. It is that is not your end all. If you ever get to the point, because you have to get to. This is the thing. You have to get to that point where it is enough. You have to get there
Right.
first.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's when people are like, why they keep coming back and coming back and blah, blah, blah. You will get to a point where you like, this is it. I don't care. And when you get to that point, it is time to go. Be
Yeah.
strategic. Don't, you gotta get your ducks in a row. And it doesn't have to be that week. It could be a month or two, a year later, but be planning your exit and being
Right.
very strategic and having people to support you through it. But it is not the way of life. It is so much better on the other side. I can
I
guarantee
al-
you that.
I also want to note that it's not a bad idea for the victims of this violence to have a go bag. If you need to leave and you need to leave right now and you don't have time to create a plan, know that you've got a change of clothes, a couple extra dollars so you can leave that situation if it becomes so volatile you have to get out
Yeah.
right then and there.
And
So
maybe even a cell phone. Yeah.
and we talk about in therapy, I've talked about creating a safety plan for yourself, right? What does that look like? Should this happen again? What are the steps? And I've had clients write down what that plan would look like, where they could go, who they can call. So if you do not have the luxury of time and plotting out an exit, and you recognize I can't stay here for another minute or this person's going to kill me, have that little bag ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
My other thought is for those of us seeing the friends, seeing the colleagues, and like you said, Yameika, just a little bit quiet or just a little bit off, ask them, hey, what's going on? I noticed this, that, and the other. Um, because, like you said, maybe if somebody had asked you, you would have shared. Maybe you would have had more support. So when you see something, say something, you know. And I think that's really important for us, like the bystanders, to be mindful of when we see like a change in behavior in our people
Right. And just no judgments about
Yeah.
with no judgment.
because it's their life and they will leave when they get ready. Because I've
Exactly.
Right.
been had friends that have been through things and they kept going back and kept going back. And
Yeah.
you're just like, hey, but when they're ready, they're ready. And the
Yeah.
thing is just saying, when you are ready, I am here. Whatever you need,
Yes.
ride or die,
Right.
I got you. And that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
That right there is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yamika, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing this, your personal journey. and hopefully anybody listening will be empowered. And I think I just want to give some statistics so you know you're not alone. 1 in 3 women worldwide experience physical and or sexual intimate partner violence. And on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. And of course, there's an impact on children. 1 in 15 children are exposed to their parents being violent. There is a national domestic violence hotline number, 1-800-799-7233. You're not alone.
Thank you so much for being with us again, Yameika. Really appreciate you being here and having the courage to share that story, and knowing that that story can help others is just tremendous. So thank you for recognizing that your story has value with others.
Yeah.
And that it can make a difference for them. We so appreciate you being here.
Thanks, sis.